Hello and welcome to Aerospace Rocketry's YouTube channel, where we specialize in the hobby of high-powered rocketry, drones, and other fun stuff. Like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. It helps out the channel. Hope you like our next video. Okay, so here's where we are. There's our main tube with our slots. I have pulled the rocket motor assembly out, and initially I glued all 4 fins using JB Weld through the slots and onto the motor tube. And now the next thing to do is to put fillets or fillets or whatever you guys call it in the corners of all the fins to get a little extra strength, because the majority of the strength I need is from that motor tube, as you know, because I am going to use the clear fins, and want to make sure there's very little epoxy on the motor tube, the body tube itself. So I just mixed up some more West System epoxy, and we're going to be putting this in and making some sloppy fillets in there, because nobody's going to see them anyway, so it makes it a little bit easier just to pour it on and make sure it's nice and strong. All right, since our last clip, I did a little bit of painting. I painted early only because I have clear fins and I don't want to get any paint on the clear fins, so I decided to paint the tube ahead of time. This is part of the upper portion of the rocket. Here is the assembly with my clear fins glued in, and we also did fillets or fillets. Pardon the dog barks. So I've already mixed some West epoxy, and I spread it around inside that tube, and we're going to insert this now into here. Glue this in place. It should go in actually pretty easy, since I fitted this several times. I just gotta work this in. And tap. It's a little bit on the tight side here, but should be able to squeeze this in. I think my little bit of the body tube is kind of getting in the way here. I'm going to pry that out a little bit. And we should be able to slide this right in. Yep, that's what it was. Just tap that right up. And boom. Now what I like to do is I always like to tie this down, because of the weight of the fins, this might fall off of here, and we don't need that. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stand this up, okay, and then let this dry really good. So bunch of epoxy put up in here, and as you slide in the rings, then epoxy will roll up towards the front, which is really where you want your power and your strength. So as the motor pushes up, it's not going to go anywhere. Plus the fins, of course, are up against a fiberglass tube here, so this isn't going anywhere. So just want to get this in. We're going to stand it vertical and let the glue settle on the upper rings. Already drilled out for my launch buttons, so they're going to fit in right directly into the wood. We'll epoxy those in too, and then we're going to start with some detail work. All right, we're going to put a coupler at the top of this tube here, And that all thread comes right up into this area here. And we're going to have a coupler right here. And then we'll have our drogue compartment in that section. Okay. All right, so I want to give you some progress on my Falcon 9 rocket. I just did some extra painting here. The black end and the white here is painted up to here already. Now, you notice on this I have a couple of screws. This will stay permanently fixed during flight, but the reason I have it removable is because I can't fit it in my car. So this piece comes off to shorten it just enough so I can get it in the back of my Equinox to transport it to launch sites, right? So what I did here was I had to do some extra black paint, so I did some extra masking here, because underneath here you will see the completed motors in the back, and I think you can see those, so that's a good thing. So these are the bells that I use to simulate the Merlin engines that are on the rocket. And in the center here is a 75 millimeter. We're going to come down so the camera follows me. But in the center is a 75 millimeter mount where the main motor will go. And then these are simulated Merlin 9 engines. That looks pretty cool. Then, of course, we have 1515 rail guides here and here. And one of the things I had to do, I'll take this off here real quick. So these were masked, keep them nice and clean. And these are the clear fins that we talked about earlier on in the video. And I'm keeping them very covered up as best I can because we're going to be painting and we're going to be doing a dull coat at the end after our decals go on. And I want to make sure that these things are protected because I can't have any paint getting on clear fins or they won't be clear anymore. So with that said, this is what the paint job looks like. So the Falcon 9 has a little bit of black on the bottom, and then it's white, and then we're going to, our Falcon 9 capsule, which is the Dragon capsule that we're talking about, that will go on the end of this tube. And this has just been fiberglassed and sanded and sprayed and sanded and sprayed and sanded. It's got one more light sand to go, one more coat of primer, and we're ready to go. But this will fit here, and we do have a electronic compartment that will go in here. So our drogue chute will be in this section here, and our main chute will be in this section. Dragon capsule will be out here. In all, we're going to be about 114 inches, 113 inches long, which is just about 1/24 scale Falcon 9 rocket. Okay? Now, to also, and I've showed you this before, to also give it some authenticity, we have, and I'll show you something interesting here. If I could find the right leg. These landing, oh, here it is. So this landing leg, the problem I had was the 1515 launch lugs, right? So the landing leg sticks up so high that it was impossible for me to get this to work on the rail. So what I did was, one of these legs, instead of being permanently mounted, will be screwed down. And what I did was I put a threaded thing there, and this leg, this particular leg, will be screwed down for appearances, for display purposes. And then at launch, I can remove this leg that you're seeing here. So this screws down really nice and tight for display purposes, and that's one of the landing legs on the Falcon 9. Like, let me turn this a little bit more for you. You can see it a little bit better here. So there's your landing legs, and I'm going to do one, of course, on each side. They'll be permanently mounted, but because of the 15-15 lugs, I didn't want to have them sticking up this high to go over this leg. So right before launch, I'm going to remove this, and it'll be able to slide right down on the rail. And you won't even see it because the rail, this side of the rocket, will be facing us, and we won't even see that this is missing during launch. So that was the only way to get around that. I think it was the best way, the simplest way, and the safest way. So we will have that, and we also have 3D printed the Falcon 9 guide fins. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but I showed you this before. So these are 3D printed for me. Also, I'm going to put all the links in the description for you. And these will line up. I think they go this way. Once I get the distance of the main booster, this will be just below that main booster, the part that comes down and lands. Now, obviously, this is not going to do that, but we want to try to keep it, the dimensions the same. So these on each side of where the fins are in between, we're going to have one of these, and we're going to have the landing legs, right? So if this thing is in the way, I may have to do the same thing I did with the landing legs, and that is to make this one removable right before launch. Okay? Otherwise, we'll be in pretty good shape. So that's what we got so far. Please subscribe. I know I've got thousands of people that are watching you guys and watching my videos. A lot of you don't subscribe because you don't have a Google account, whatever the reason, but trying to reach 1,000 subscribers would be really great if you could help me out. So that's what we have so far. Again, a 75mm in the back end here. We got our simulated Merla engines, our simulated landing legs. We'll have our simulated fins. And we'll be painting that other tube shortly and start building our electronics bay with an RC2 altimeter. And we'll be putting that together later today, so I can show you that afterwards. So that's what we got so far, and I'll come up with the next one shortly.